What's up, everybody? This is Dr. Bo with the Dr. Bo Knows Nothing show. Just got done recording with Dr. Dyllon Mawn. Just a fire of good energy from this guy all the time. Incredible human. I just want you to listen and hear what happens when we become self-aware, when we get our priorities straight, when we live in alignment with who we are and who we're meant to be. And again, that living that gut feeling, that intuition, and following that when it's in alignment with where you're supposed to be, and how to get there, and how to maintain it, and how to handle ups and downs along the way. Super good show. Definitely going to be doing more with him because we just found some topics as we talked that we could go off at least 2 or 3 more episodes. But tune in, hear a crazy story about a great entrepreneur, great human, great story in chiropractic, and also just an inspiring human to learn some good mental health tips from. Welcome, Dr. Dyllon Mawn, one of my favorite human beings on the planet. I wish we didn't live in literal opposite corners of the country. There's not many farther places to go besides if I moved to where Twilight was filmed.
Honestly.
Yeah. Welcome, buddy. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad this worked. And why don't you bring us in with just kind of who are we talking to? And especially, how did you get into chiropractic? Because your story is very different from the majority of students that get into school, in the sense that you knew for a long time. I don't think a lot of people have a healing moment. And then I think, anyway, but yeah, why don't you bring us in on how you got where you are and where you are now, and then kind of what you're getting into, and then we'll dive in.
Okay.
Cool.
Man, it's great to be here. I'm excited to be a guest on this. It seems like a handful of my friends now are jumping into the whole podcast thing, and it's rad to watch you guys doing this, and it's cool to get to be a part of it. So my name is Dr. Dyllon. I practice in St. Petersburg, Florida. I moved out here a year ago. Man, I could just go backwards with this. Yep. I moved out here. I started my practice a year ago, moved out here about a year and a half ago, graduated chiropractic school about 3 years ago, decided I want to be a chiropractor 15 years ago.
There it is.
Yeah, we did. We went backwards on that.
So tell us about when that started, because I think that's pretty cool to be that convicted at 15.
Yeah, totally. So I was 15 in high school, and I knew a couple things. I'm my oldest brother, and so like grew up rather quickly. And when I was in high school, I was already like, I want to help people, and I want to make money. Like I want to do well in life. I watched my
good things in that order.
Right.
Yeah.
I grew up in a blue collar family, and my dad owns a landscaping lawn maintenance company. I think he has now owned it I think he just had his like 30th year, like 28th year or something. And I watched this dude just build every single year, like growing up. And now I've like talked to my mom, and the truth is, yes, every single year growing up, they just steadily grew. Like never went backwards, right? And now he's got more employees than he ever thought he would have. And so like I grew up in a small business family, and it was blue collar. We went on vacations, we had a great Christmas, like all the things. And mom, yes, she works, and now I see how much she works, but like she didn't go to work.
Right. She was able to be present.
Yeah. So she was like home, and I was like, man, I'm a kid, and I'm like, I want to make good money, and I want to help people. And like, I want to be able to like live as good or better than how I grew up. And I never saw my parents like get a paycheck. I never saw my parents live in a job where everything was just stable. It was all like creation based. Yeah. And I like that part of it as well. So my dad was diagnosed what they call type 1.5 diabetes. I never heard of it. It's basically like late adult onset, but it is autoimmune. It's not like entirely lifestyle based. Like he wasn't obese or anything. He actually was losing weight, increasing energy, eating whatever the hell he wanted, having all this like energy in the world. And then his eyesight started going. His blood sugar was chilling in like the mid 400s.
Wow.
Like dangerously high.
You know, what's funny is we actually, Dr. Bonham and I talked, and that's on episode 3 that's out. And we talked about this just yesterday, recording that. So
that's incredible.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
You guys were talking about like blood glucose, insulin, like all the,
we're talking about that, and like gluten and the mimicry of what it can do in the body, and the effect on the pancreas. And that can also lead to type 1.5 from a gluten sensitivity.
That's interesting.
Yeah. You can always learn something from that guy, dude. He's a nerd.
Definitely gonna listen to that podcast. Bonham knows like some crazy stuff.
Yeah. Anyway.
So he was diagnosed diabetes. Like I said, he was blue collar. And so 9 months after being diagnosed which was 3 months after having his insulin levels between the shots and the pills stable. He was stable for
Okay.
3 months. Starts seeing a chiropractor for mid back and low back pain, and a month later doesn't need half of his fast acting insulin, and drops down his slow acting, the overnight stuff, down significantly. Well, it wasn't a silver bullet. He wasn't completely healed, but he changed nothing in his life, started seeing chiropractic and needed less insulin. We were all like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
So this chiropractor, his name's Dr. Matt Simons. He's young. He's in great shape. He drives a Porsche, and he's surrounded by people that love him and give him good energy. And he just helps people with his hands. And I'm like, what is this? He was some sort of doctor that I'm told is a chiropractor. I knew nothing about chiropractic. And what I realize now is he was a principal chiropractor. So he was a maximized living doctor. And so they have like systems of how they do things. And one of the ways they do things are you bring your entire family in for the doctor's report, where they teach you basically the principle, right?
Why are we here? The
principle of health and healing and the brain-body connection and all this stuff. I'm sitting in the back of the room. I remember the memory like it was yesterday. I know exactly where I was sitting. And I'm just like so inspired. And it hit me like a ton of bricks.
Right.
I had come to Jesus clarity. It was, I'm going to be a chiropractor. This is what I'm doing. Done. I told my mom on the way home. I remember I was sitting in the back of her car, and she was like proud of me and like somewhat impressed. And then also like,
well, and let's be honest, everybody wants a chiropractor in their family. Free adjustments at Christmas. You know what I'm saying?
Well, she was, I don't even know. Like, I think she was just kind of like, dude, you're 50, like, cool. Yeah, totally. I support that. Go
Big
for
dreams,
it.
Kid. You can be whatever you want someday.
Yeah. But it was like, I never felt like she felt the conviction that I had.
Sure.
And then over the next couple of years, like I started shadowing him in high school.
Yeah.
I started interning in his practice, filing his old analog x-rays, so that Christine, my now wife, could get care with him because she got migraines. And I'm like, there's no way I can afford your care. So like, can I volunteer for you? Like, is there anything you guys need done so that my girlfriend can get care?
Yeah. Just another Dyllon helping people.
If I had a 15-year-old kid in my practice that was like, what can I do to get my girlfriend in care? Anything. What do you want to do?
You want to know something cool? We had a 15-year-old come in to job shadow one time. She then ended up working for us, and she's now in her second year at Life West.
See, it's amazing.
Yep.
It's amazing. So it hit me like a ton of bricks. I knew it was going to happen. And from there, I just stayed the course. I didn't change my undergrad once in undergrad.
And you told me you didn't even really want to stay to graduate because you knew what you wanted to do, but your parents wanted you to get the bachelor's, right?
Yeah. So I wanted to go straight to Life U. Yep. And because I did like good in high school, and my parents had like a prepaid program or whatever, I had a full ride to undergrad. And my mom really wanted me to keep my options open. She didn't want to like pigeonhole it too much.
It's a smart mom.
Was like, yeah, smart mom, great mom. And UCF was a blast.
Yeah, that wasn't the worst time of your life.
It was paid for, and it was so great.
That's cool.
So I go to UCF, got my degree. I didn't even walk because I didn't care.
Yeah.
I was just like, well, this is just another stepping stone. Like, it's the same thing as high school. I really just had fun for the last 5 years. Like, now we're going to Life U. Let's get this thing going. While I was at Life U, I found what then was Adjusting Ninjas, and now Kairos Training Culture. That entirely changed my life. I went from the kid who at Life U, you can choose your classes. So you can pick your schedule. Okay. I went from the kid that tried to have 7 a.m.s to the kid that was at school training at 5:30 in the morning, 4 days a week with a bunch of friends. We're like freaking breathing and meditating and running and like doing these like adjusting strikes. Everyone thought that we were either crazy dorks or losers.
I got to tell you, when Adjusting Ninjas Club came to Palmer, I remember watching them do these like weird karate ninja like move. I mean, thrusts. Now I know what it is, right? And I've practiced it many times, and it has absolutely changed the response from people after we learned how to adjust properly, in my opinion. But I was like, okay, weirdos, like you're adjusting the air. Cool. And how quick it is, how easy we are to judge people. And anyway, but yeah,
that was me
real.
First year.
That was real. You had
that was
an uphill
me
battle.
First year, from first quarter to fifth quarter. there was this club that was called Adjusting Ninjas. First of all, I was like, that's a dumb name. And I can say that I'm a Kairos facilitator. I'm gonna be straight with y'all.
You've earned it.
But like there was a dude that was going around school. He was like trying to promote Adjusting Ninjas. Like there wasn't a lot about him that I was like, yeah, I want to be that. And like the strikes, I thought that it looked goofy. Like and I was definitely too afraid to like do that because it looks weird.
Too afraid to be weird.
Too afraid to like, yeah, like, dude, what are you doing? Like you get up at 5 a.m. before it's like light out. So fifth quarter, I wasn't pumped on my adjusting, and here I am, like the most sold out kid in the class on chiropractic, and like I'm not pumped on my adjusting.
Right.
And so me and my buddy Mark, we committed to training a whole quarter. Then we went to our first camp, and it changed everything for me. And I just I went deep on that. That could literally be a whole podcast.
But that is probably parts 1 and 2. So I think that is also, though, a great segue into talking about the self-awareness, right? Where you no longer care about how you are viewed from the outside in, but you want full expression again from inside out. And that comes with 0 F's given, right? From anything else. When you are attracted to something, I believe that it's for a purpose, right? And like you either dive in or you ignore that. And so I think going into now, how you've gone from that committed 15-year-old to a more committed 23-ish-year-old in chiropractic school. How then now in practice, like, because you guys are opening, how long you been open?
I've been open a year.
And now
a year November 1st. So
let's call it
a year and 2 months.
So you're in 2 months, and now you have your second office doors open, correct?
Yes.
Which is incredible, by the way. Congratulations.
Thank you. We're pumped.
Massive shout out to Christine, by the way, Dylan's wife, that organizes the beautiful energy that comes out of chiropractors sometimes, right? And
she does all of it.
Yeah, she does everything. But what I'd like to talk about is now, not everybody wants 2 practices. Not everybody wants high volume, but how is it that you can battle some of the, I guess you could call it adversity, like, because there's always judgment from people. You open something and people give you your opinions, or you picked your location and maybe it wasn't the one you thought you'd start with, but it just felt right. How have you found ways to still implement that? I know this is right, I'm following this gut feeling in the last year and a half. So obviously get you to success, right?
So yeah, that is a good segue. And I think it's because I think I know you are thinking I can go with this. I mean, I started training intuition with Kairos.
Right.
And what I didn't realize then and know now is all the work that we were doing, training at 5:30 in the morning every single day with a community of people, following a structure of movement, breath work, meditation, train chiropractic, which is literally what we were doing. We would get a sweat on, we'd come inside and we'd freaking breathe, and we would do typically 49 breaths or Wim Hof. From that, it's like when you breathe, I don't know if it's early in the morning after the workout, when you breathe as hard as we were breathing, like it's spacey. So you're feeling something wild. Then you go into training chiropractic. This thing that we do has turned into art. It's turned into an art. So I find it interesting, small segue. I find it like almost laughable when a lot of chiropractors get really offended when they're not like considered real doctors or whatever. I find it laughable only because I really don't give a shit if you think I'm a doctor or not. I don't really resonate as much with the term doctor as I do many other things. We don't even call our clients patients.
Right.
We actually like I was training on this with our docs, like everyone's a client. They're a practice member or a client. And it's just, I don't know. I don't really resonate with the whole archetype of doctor. I mean, I'm myself, I'm authentic. But we started training intuition. And when I say training, I mean that specifically. And that's because it is something that you feel your intuition, and how clear you are to listen to that intuition is your ability to fully trust and follow it. And it does not matter what anyone else thinks. It doesn't even matter the circumstances. It's a knowing that is like a soul knowing that it doesn't need to be explained, but it also can, because there's typically a decent amount of logic to it too. Like, I'm not
Right.
saying this stuff made no sense.
Sure.
But it's just, I just fully trust it. So like for me, I realized that I found chiropractic when I was 15, and I knew that I was going to be a chiropractor, and I felt it, and no one believed me, with love.
Right.
But I knew so much, I knew as much as I know now. And that's how I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I know what that felt like. When I was 15, I started dating Christine, and I knew I was going to marry this girl. I knew she
Right.
was going to be my wife, and we had a crazy journey to get to marriage.
Right.
But like, I knew that was going to happen, and I felt it. And what I started realizing when I was training chiropractic and training intuition was both of those feelings felt the same in my body.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started realizing that, like, you know, when you start to learn how to adjust, or even when you're just adjusting now, when it's like, you know, you're like, oh, this is gonna be so good.
Right.
Like, this is it. And you're so certain that that's it. And then those times when you maybe kind of force an adjustment a little bit, and you're like, oh, I knew that wasn't going to go right. I knew that wasn't it. Back face down. Like, you're not going to try again. You're just like, that wasn't it.
Yeah.
Reset. Those two things are feelings. And training, learning the adjustment, I started training that feeling. And then I realized that feeling shows up for me in a lot of different places. I'm rather kinesthetic. I'm rather empathetic. But I started training this by just trusting it and listening to it. Yeah. I was like, it worked with my wife. It's worked with my career. It's working while I'm adjusting people.
Those are big
things.
This
thing's real.
Well, and I think too, removing the need to understand it, right? Because as soon as we try to wrap our logical thinking around intuition, you're done. The point of intuition is to go, right? It's that, hey, go do that. That feels good. You don't need to think about this. And so you're going to overpower that, and you're just going to push it down, because your logical brain will end up in fear just to protect itself. And even if it's subtle fear, it's going to make a rationalization why, maybe not. Just like on a test in school, right? Never change your answer. Very few times did that work in your favor, right?
Exactly. Like, that's just cool, man. Go with the gut. So like, I think you're asking, how am I managing that now? Can you ask that question again?
So it was perfect. So going and describing the intuition, I think, was great. Now taking that, how have you seen specific moments in the last year building this practice? And Dunedin, how has it come into play, like it did with Christine, or like it did in the chiropractic office, right?
So that was the hardest test I've ever gone through, because when we moved out here from California, we left me crushing it in practice as an associate. Yeah. I had, reached financial freedom for the first time in my life, and I'm like a year after freaking COVID started, which is basically when we all restarted practice. Right. And I'm like, I'm doing better than ever. I'm driving my dream truck. Like, I've got money in the bank. And then here we are, we moved to St. Pete. We bought a house before we moved out here because we're crazy. But the house, again, was the feeling. I was like, yep, we're supposed to buy this house.
The light fixture.
And so we took all of our money that we had in savings. We bought this house. We were able to get a small loan to obviously like move out here, because that was our money to start the practice. So got a small loan of 50 grand and came out here. We still didn't have a location. So I knew what the location felt like, because I know that feeling, and I know what it would look like. And I had like all of my, like, in a perfect world, it would be this and this and this and this and this location and and like, I'm not trying to sound like I'm like way out there esoteric woo-woo. Like, I'm not just like doing nothing day to day and just like, oh no, I'm visualizing it and it's going to show up. No, we were looking at places nonstop. I mean, we were constantly online. We had realtors. Like, we were actually looking for over a year, because we knew we were moving out here. So we were like, let's get a head start. We know what we want. We started looking October of 2020. Yes. Started looking October of 2020. Moved out here June 2021. Still didn't have one. Kept looking. Now we're feet on the ground looking. Kept looking, like almost signed on things, almost moved forward on things, and things wouldn't happen, one thing or another. And everything that we were looking at, it was like, this is close and like this will work. I remember I was even talking to you through some of this.
Yeah, like, that one with that dome one. Remember
the dome? One? It's now a huge vegan restaurant.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. I'm actually glad I didn't have that one because I don't know what I would have done with 4,000 square feet now that
It's a lot. It's a lot to start with.
it's a lot to start with. I could
Yeah.
use it now.
Yeah.
I
You
could
will.
find a way to
You'll
use
find
it
it.
now.
You know how to
Um,
find it.
so we're looking at all these different places and it was getting really scary. I even started practicing in a private room because I was like, we're draining money quick. We have a mortgage. I have my truck. Like those two things alone,
Yeah.
we're trying
It's
to cover
expensive.
this
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
And so we're draining money really fast. And Christine's like, I think for your mental health and for just our finances,
Mm-hmm.
you should take that guy up in that offer, rent that private room, and just get started. Like you need to serve people. Like I was not in a good place.
Yeah.
Like you need to do your thing because like it felt like I lost my magic. So I started taking care of people there. The last weekend of September, we find a place, and it was everything that I originally had envisioned. It's a
Sure.
private building. It's right in downtown, one street over from Central. I want to be on Central or First North or South. It's
Mm-hmm.
got a small parking lot, so we got some parking. I even thought that it'd be really cool if it was one of those houses that was transitioned into a business because there's a lot of those in St. Pete.
Yeah.
It's one of those.
Right.
I
Good
wanted
signage.
like I wanted to create a deal with like a handshake. Like I wanted it to be real easy. I wanted to work directly with the owner of the building and not a
Right.
bunch of paperwork. And because we were super short on time, I wanted to be able to do a build out permit free little like, oh look, magic.
Like just a zhuzh. Just zhuzh it
Little
up.
zhuzh.
Yeah.
You know, we're just changing the floors.
Yeah.
The paint is really thick paint.
It's like it almost looks like a wall over there.
It's almost looked like this paint just made all these walls disappear.
Isn't it brighter with this white paint?
So we built it out in 5 weeks.
That's
But it
fast.
was everything that I felt, right? Like you're going back to your question, like I did feel it. And so I was just like, when we finally got it, I literally started laughing at myself because I was in a rough spot. I was like experiencing anxiety and everything.
I remember these calls.
I couldn't sleep. Like Christine was worried about me. Christine doesn't worry about me ever. She didn't know that she could worry about me. She didn't know I could be not okay.
Yeah.
And that was the first experience of all of that. And then we got the place, we got it open, and I literally just like kind of started laughing at myself because I'm like, wow, that was all in my head. We never ran out of money. Like we never couldn't pay our bills, had to let a credit card go late, ask for more money. Like none of that ever happened. We were in the black month one. We built it out 5 weeks. Like everything went so smooth. We were in the black month one, and then we grew every single month for the next 7 months.
It's incredible.
We had our first stabilizing month then, and it was like growth.
Right.
Like 1 month we grew by 40%. I was like, what
It's insane.
the fuck? Like,
well, and what
we're all cash.
You never know what would happen if you did take that other space. Like, sure, I don't think you would have failed anywhere, but would you have had that? And would you have felt the way you feel going into work? You know what I mean? There's so many
we have the
facets to
absolute
that.
perfect space. Like with the things that
so
we do
cool.
that aren't even just like the chiropractic, like our breath work ceremony and stuff, like everything about it being its own home is actually really important. So it all worked out exactly the way it was supposed to. And that's what happens every time. So to continue answering that question of how did I know how to listen to the inner knowing of what was going to be? How did I know to like what kept me grounded basically was I just knew it was all for me, and I knew it was going to work out because I believe that this is what I'm meant to do and supposed to do and what I'm here for. And like, I mean, while I was experiencing the anxiety, I still was able to stay centered enough that I would lay in bed, my heart's racing, my breath is super shallow, my mind is just spinning.
Right.
And I could still like step out of my body and observe it. And I literally, the first time that I like really had a lot of anxiety one night and I could not sleep for hours, I remember thinking to myself, this is fucking anxiety. This is wild. Like I was watching
this is a new thing for you.
I'm like, this is insane. People experience this all the time. So like while we were going through it, no matter how hard it got, I still knew that it was going to work because it had to. And because every other time in my life that I've gone through hardship, and this is why I think that we all ought to embrace hardship. Every other time in my life that I've gone through hardship, including just a month ago, because things are still not easy.
Right.
It's like right afterwards is the brightest dawn of the morning. After every darkest night, right afterwards is like all this clarity, all this gratitude for like what I just went through. So while it was happening, I'm like, man, we are birthing something freaking awesome, because this is the hardest thing I've ever done and I'm losing my shit.
Yeah. Well, and you know, I always say Rudy wouldn't be a good movie if he was 6'3", 230. You know what I mean? It would just be normal.
Exactly.
And
Alec told
so,
me while I was going through this, one of the things he said to me, and I'll never forget it. Dr. Alec Keberdol, he works with me now. He said, dude, it can't all just tee up. That wouldn't be fun. That's not actually what you want. That wouldn't be the life experience. It's like, it's not
right.
supposed to just tee up. Like, some of it's got to be hard. And that's going to help you connect with more people later. And I'm like, duh. Okay. You're right. Cool. We can do this.
Yeah. That's
So
awesome, man.
we just stayed in it and trusted the process and did a lot of hard work. I mean, like, we did our baseboards ourselves. We painted ourselves. I'll never do that again.
Painting's
We
the
did a lot of things
worst idea.
ourselves. Like money wasn't endless. We were tight. We did have to like earn it and stuff.
Right.
And then we've got like amazing support system from all of our friends within the Source community. And so all of these things were just a recipe for, you got to earn some stripes to become your first time business owner. Like, you earned your stripes.
Yeah, I've been through it.
But like, we all go
right.
through it, right?
Yeah.
I'm realizing that, like, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, like, part of it is going through it, and it's all a different flavor for everyone, but it's supposed to be hard.
Dude, it's no different than a gym mentality. Like, you wouldn't go in and curl fives if you can do 30, right? Like, nothing good ever comes from ease. And just like BJ Palmer's quote, the path of least resistance makes men and rivers crooked, right? Like, that's not what we want, because it's not where we want to go.
Right.
That's
With that
good.
being said, you can still like find where there's flow. Like, there was still flow during all this. Nothing went stagnant. Nothing turned where it was like, this isn't it. The whole time it was like, this is it. This is just the process. Like, keep going, keep trugging through the mud. Like, it never became a no. Right. I also know what a no sounds like and feels like.
Right. And there are so many people that I think quit just before that dawn you talked about, like right before their breakthrough, they give up. Right. And like you said, there are times where things need to bail or change or modify or switch, but that's the thing. Just don't quit. See what happens if you don't quit for one more day. Right. And just keep that mantra. And I think what we skipped over and is easy to forget is that this is all good. And I think it's awesome info, but your intuition isn't also going to lead you to things that are harmful. It's not going to lead you towards things. And so what you mentioned in the very beginning, talking about job shadowing, was your intentions, your priorities of this are serve people, then make some money. Right. So essentially that's serve others, then serve me, is what that says. And so I think that's the biggest thing, is that people sometimes skip step one in a lot of ways. And in this situation, it's so easy to go, well, that's what I want. But yet they don't go, well, why do I want it? Right. Like, and I think asking yourself why 2 or 3 more times can come in handy a lot. But especially the intention of your energy has to be service based. It has to be out of love. It has to be out of how you can make this world a place that you're contributing to, not just consuming from. Right.
Absolutely. And that's where, again, like, when things get hard, even now, it's always just like that reminder of, we're here to serve and help others. And like, that's what we're doing here. If you are serving others and you do it well and you have good intentions, I mean, why do dogs,
it's gonna work.
How do dogs become a species at large, that like dogs have all their needs met? I laugh at my dog. Like, she has her own couch. She has like 4 beds. Like, Christine makes her food. Like, we cook her food. She's on a bodybuilder diet. She gets beef, quinoa, and vegetables mixed together, like portioned out. She's literally on a bodybuilder diet. And
that's
like,
awesome.
I'm like so fascinated by this dog that all it does is loves us. All it does is loves us to death. And then it made me think once, like, well, but really like the whole species, because like dogs are basically domesticated now. I'm
I
not
would
saying that
say.
dogs have it made, but like dogs are
Right.
a domesticated species. We don't really have many wild dogs anymore. And I'm like, well, this species basically figured out give love abundantly,
Thrive.
and then you'll have all your needs met. So like I'm just like, oh, I'm just gonna fucking live like a dog. And like I'm
Dude.
just gonna keep serving and loving people really fucking big.
Right.
And I mean, it's making life groovy. Not that
100%.
life doesn't have challenges. Last year was a hard year, but like
But you're equipped.
it all works.
You're equipped and you want to do it and you want to fix it, and because you're able and you're ready and you're aligned with that is what I need. If I have to get to point B and there's a $5 bill and it's 10 miles away and they said run there, like, no. Now if my kid is there and he needs my help, I'll PR that 10-mile run, and I'll probably blow my heart up before I'll quit, right? And so
Yep.
again, the intention, the priority is, it was so connected to you, who you are, one main pillar of who you are, that it couldn't fail. It had to work no matter what was in front of you. A brick wall is foam at that point, right? It's still got to go through, but you will find a way through.
Yes.
So that's awesome.
Yeah, it was the hardest thing we did was like getting it launched. And then afterwards, it was nice because we had full net problems all year. And I'd much rather have full net problems than empty net problems. And
Right.
and it was, but we had just challenges and growth and all of this stuff all year. And it's just, I love growth. And so I'm finding myself like just always in a position where I'm like, oh yeah, this is like what I like, right?
Yeah. And let's not
And so
forget
I
that
just,
growth hurts, right? Like muscular growth. I don't remember who it was, but it was some guy, some comedian talking about growth, and he was talking about a seed, and he's like, think about a seed when it grows, it just busts open and this thing goes up the top. And you think that seed's sitting there saying, man, that feels good? It's like, no, that shit hurts, but it's
right,
got to become a tree, right? And so I think being attracted to that is that lifestyle of, you better accept some challenges, like we've been saying.
exactly.
And going off of that, now I want to know growth, obviously in a Dunedin clinic, another office, I think, what, 10 miles away roughly?
It's like a solid, I think it's more like 20.
20
It's a
miles.
30-minute drive.
Okay, so a half hour away, you've got location 2. I would be naive to think that a couple more clinics is probably your vision of growth only, right? I think that would be limiting. Where do you see in your practice or outside of it, anywhere serving people in the next, 3, 4, 5 years? How do you see yourself kind of stepping up the Dyllon game a little bit?
So that's an interesting thing to ask, because I'm actually changing a little bit of focus this year.
Okay.
So we opened St. Pete last year. We grew very quickly and in a really just beautiful way. We also have a group of friends that are incredible chiropractors that are all graduating right around the same time. And then some friends that are also incredible chiropractors that were practicing in Mississippi, and everyone like wanted to come out. And it
Yeah.
was like, yeah, that would be amazing. And so the plan was, the intention actually last New Year's, we were all spending time together, and we said, we would love to have you guys moving out here, kind of transitioning out here in the fall, so that we can get practice number 2 open in the winter.
Yep.
We had a crazy up and down, first year. We didn't think that was going to happen. Christine got pregnant. And then at that point, it really wasn't going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
When we lost the baby, we both felt it, but didn't say it. And then it came up in therapy, that we felt like that's what we should do. And we also did some other things, and we felt like that was part of the reason why we lost the baby, was it just wasn't the right time, that we were supposed to do these things. Like we were supposed to come out here and create this hub, this community. And the second we got pregnant, we were like, I don't know if that's going to happen anymore. Maybe we'll just like play small.
Sure.
In the business world. With that being said, now that we've like got everyone here, I'm actually not, I'm a chiropractor first and an entrepreneur second. And so I'm actually not like looking ahead and thinking 5, 10, 20 sources in this area. Is it going to happen? Yeah. because it's just going to keep going. We
Yeah.
do know where we would like to put a couple, but we know that we're setting a boundary, and next year we are not opening. Because this last year, when I reflect on the year, all of my accomplishments, all of my achievements, everything that I was proud of was business focused. And that's beautiful. Like, I mean,
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's not bad. And I'm proud of what we did. Like, I look back and I'm like looking at what we did this last year, and I'm like, holy shit. I mean, all of this stuff that
It's incredible.
like opening the second practice, taking care of an NFL athlete. Like, I fly to Boston twice a week to do that while I'm managing my first location, while we're launching the second location, like all of this at the same time.
Yeah.
The team literally is more than doubling in size. Just hitting all of our goals. We're taking our team on a cruise this year for hitting like the first year goals,
Awesome.
like just everything that we did. It was like huge accomplishments. But then I look at what did I not accomplish? My house is still only set up in our master bedroom. All the other rooms, like this is the most set up of the room, which is why I'm in here. But most of our rooms are like empty or have like an air mattress in them.
Yeah.
Still haven't, started our family, which is semi in and out of my control, but like
Sure.
that didn't happen. This was the first year that my health is not better at the end of the year than at the beginning.
Interesting.
And that was really hard for me. And that started to break me down. I mean, I'm still doing good, but it was like the first time in my life that I could look and I could say, oh shit, I'm actually not just like automatically stronger, healthier, more vibrant than I was last year. I feel like I'm not. And I was starting to like dread my birthday coming up.
That affects your number one priority of service.
Serving everyone else.
Right. And you're not gonna be able to do that very well when you're feeling like shit, right?
Yeah. And so everything that I focused on this last year was depleting me. So actually moving forward, all of my intentions for this year are to trust the ability of my team and to trust the pace that is meant for us to grow at. It doesn't mean I'm not going to work because like I love doing this thing, but I'm going to have more balance. I'm going to use my paddle boards more often. I'm going to run more often. I'm going to like take care of myself better, and I'm going to like have my mental health be better. Right. Because I don't want to break down at the end of the year like I did last year. Well, and I don't want to keep feeling like I'm not doing it good enough on the inside of my head when everyone around me is like just super stoked at whatever we're doing. Right. Because it's no way to live. And that's how I was living last year.
Well, and I think too, if you break that down, you look at if there's an area you are going to grow in, it's that delegation of tasks to people that you can trust to get done and how to follow up and how to not micromanage. And I mean, yes, you're going to restore yourself by that plan, but there's still growth happening, right? Like you are becoming a better business owner, a better entrepreneur, a better service person by doing that. And I think, I think that's super cool. Cause again, it's just staying in alignment, which is kind of what we're talking about with a year can look super, super different from the last, but that doesn't mean it's out of alignment or bad. Right. Right. It's just this year. That's the next step.
It felt like it was, the thing is it was in perfect alignment because when I go to the beginning of last year, like at the end of last year, I'm like, man, how did I get here? And I go to the beginning of last year and I'm like, oh yeah, the only thing I cared about this year actually was business. Like all of my intentions were, we're going to grow this thing. We're going to hit massive goals. We're going to get super stable. Like I want a boat. I want this. I want all this stuff. Like, well, I'm about to go freaking earn it. We're going to open another practice in a year. Like if that was my intention at the beginning of the year, you bet your ass you're going to work your ass off to get there. And we got there. And so it was like, all right, cool. It's just another reminder of like, whatever you set your intention for is what's going to happen. So now what I'm working on is being super specific. Is that Jamie?
That's Max.
Oh. Hi, Max. What's up, Max?
Oh, I'm almost done, buddy.
Okay, can I go play?
Just wait till I'm done. Just a little live podcasting. It's all good.
So what I'm actually working on now is I'm like, yo, intention is creepy powerful if you're living in alignment. Like that's the key. You can't just like have a super strong intention and then not live in alignment of that intention and expect anything to happen. But if you have a strong intention and then you're willing to live in alignment of what it takes to achieve that intention, whether you're like aware of it or not, in reflection of every time that I hold these intentions and these visions and it happens every single time, at this point, it's like, okay, this is just a fucking recipe to life. I just got to keep doing it. Yeah. Now I'm like focusing very carefully on what my intention is. So like, I'm also being careful to not say, I don't care about business this year. I'm
Yeah,
only
right.
about me, right? Like I'm still gonna like do things and I have intentions for the business. This year, I just want more balance. I want to
Yeah.
be willing to say like, yeah, I could go on that weekend trip and not like, well, I don't know if I can because like I got to manage a team, I got to this and that. It's like that's not the life I'm trying to create.
Right. Yeah, and I that's it. I mean, all I want to say is everything you just said. I think just to echo that, it's so powerful to know, why do I want to be doing what I'm doing? And if I don't, what can I do that is what I want to do? And I think whether you're 20 or 60, like it is never too late to dive into something new, to start over, I guess is what to say. But again, it seems impossible when we try to understand it. But when we simply just decide, I'm not doing this job anymore, or I'm not working anymore. And that doesn't mean it's like next week gonna happen, right? Like how long did you look for spaces? Months.
Right.
You got so close and then rugs pulled out. Um, so I think it's important to, again, don't quit, stick with it, and don't, I was going to say acknowledge, but don't not acknowledge those little wins along the way, because that gratitude for everything that is in alignment with you, whether it's a parking spot in the front row or $100,000 deal, the gratitude should be the same all the time, because it's supporting the end vision, which is just don't quit, keep going. And
Correct.
so I think it's awesome. I think there's a lot of stuff that people can take. And if I had to break it down just at the end, I would say, ask yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? Why do I want to do something different? And really, those two things should be the same. And if you
Yeah.
can, right. And so get your, why do I want to do something hard? What's my end goal with this? And then start writing down some behaviors that would support it and compare it to your current behavior, right? I think that's the most simple way, is to just be identifying, wow, my 5 priorities that I say aren't matching up at all with my 5 most common habits. I need to probably change how I'm spending my time. And a lot of
Exactly.
that comes with, I think, people you spend your time with, but that's probably going to come up on your 5 habits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the gratitude piece you said, it's not even the next level of that is not just being thankful for the front row parking spot or the winning the lotto. It's also being thankful for really hard shit.
Right.
And
The
hard
teaching.
shit. Like
Yeah.
the teaching from it, like, you know, as heavy as this is, Christine and I have been able to find a place to have gratitude in the miscarriage. And that's how you know that you're healing through things, is whenever you can, you know, and that doesn't take away the pain, but it makes you not powerless over it. It doesn't make you a victim of it. It's like, this is painful, this sucks, and I'm thankful for it, because I am also able to sit centered enough to realize that the community that we have around us right now literally would not be here right now if that baby went full term, because ironically today actually would have been the due date. And so today would have been the due date, but instead today was the first day that we had our full team office meeting with everyone together. Yesterday was the first day that I had my first doc training with all 8 docs. And just like, this is literally our first week of doing things. And this was the week that we were supposed to be due. That is not accidental.
Right.
And the awareness to pay attention to that, and the ability to surrender into the trust of the universe to realize, wow, what we felt months back when we were processing and integrating the loss of our unborn child, and genuinely feeling, we even like spoke with a medium, like we were really working through this, and genuinely coming to the conclusion and the feeling and the trust and the knowing that this happened because we're supposed to move forward with opening our practice. Dude, the week after we spoke with this medium and she basically told us that, which is what we were already feeling,
Sure.
was when I got the contract with Isaiah, which is the NFL player take care of.
Right.
And that contract was enough money for us to go the next week. We were like, we're looking for a location. Because like now that we just secured that, it doesn't matter what you do for the rest of the year, as long as I maintain my regular collections, which of course we kept growing.
Sure.
As long as I maintain my regular thing with where I'm at right now, we can afford to open this next practice. So we started looking for a space, and then everything was in flow. Found it right away, no build out, easy lease.
Yeah.
Everything was totally perfect. The team started attracting to us.
Mm-hmm.
I had Caleb and Shelby, but then everyone else, they started calling me.
Yeah.
Like, yo, can I come out there? Like, do you have space? And I'm like, yeah. And now we have this fucking team of all-stars, and I'm just looking around me and I'm like, gratitude. Like, okay, I can see it.
Yeah.
And again, it doesn't make it not painful, but it makes it like it was for me.
And not to be cliche, but you are living the statement of everything happens for a reason, right? And we don't understand the reasons, and we might never fully comprehend it, probably. But look what you're able to reconnect. And now, again, to go back to the hardships, when a hardship comes into play now, you have this foundation of, not that you can compare every situation, but you have experience of trusting that faith, right? That that know of going forward. And so it does make hard situations, they aren't less painful, but you are certain that the pain is worth it, and it's working, right? Like
it doesn't break you down anymore. When you are 100%. No longer a victim, you can handle a lot of hardship, because if you're not a victim and the hardships for you, it's literally just like, I look at life like a roller coaster, right? I look at life like a roller coaster. We have like the highs and lows, the ups and downs, but like, how boring would a roller coaster be if it was just a train? Like, it's just fucking moving. Like, I want the highs and the lows, right? Yeah. And so when you can go with it with that non-judgment, you become resilient as fuck. Like, yeah. I remember when we were sitting in therapy processing this shit, and I was just like, I remember saying to the therapist, like, this is really hard, but I know somehow it's for me, and we're going to grow through this, and it's going to be better for it. And so I'm just like trying to feel the gratitude that I know, like I know it, but like I was trying to feel it. Right. It's like, it's a process to get there, but that shift, you can do anything. That shift, you can launch a business, you can launch a segment, like you can do anything, because you are trusting. And it's not for us to understand it, because understanding is all ego. That's all thought, right? Yeah. And like, we don't actually understand fucking anything. Like, I was thinking, I was driving home to get ready to do this podcast with you, and I was like, I almost want to start it with like, let me just preface this with like, I know nothing, but I'm going to share with all my experience.
Yeah, that's the name of the show. Dr. Bo knows nothing.
Like, it's like, and the older you get, you're like, oh, I literally know nothing. Like,
remember when you thought your parents, I can remember my parents being as old as I am now, right? And I remember thinking like, wow, they know everything I need to know. My dad knows.
Yep.
No way. He's a kid. I don't know anything. He didn't know anything. We're all just faking it. We're all just trying hard. But
so it's the key is not, the key of healing and resolution is not to understand it. Sure. It's just to trust it. It's 100%. Just to trust it.
And you can trust it, because the first time is scary because you've maybe never done it, but that's why it could be anything, right? You just start small with these little changes, and you start to see that not only are they working, but man, I'm better at being me. Like, I'm just a better version of Dr. Bo now, because I took that little step into what seemed uncomfortable, but really was just different, right? And my logic brain was trying to understand, well, why would you want to change what's comfortable? Well, because like you said, on the other side of that hill is a really fun downhill, and probably a loop-de-loop that I want to go through. Mm-hmm. Right. And so I got to go up that hill. I got to find out. And there might be another hill, but that means the downhill is going to be more fun. Right. And so I love it, man. I think I'm just amazed by pretty much everything we talked about, but really, I know my life is better knowing you, and I can only imagine if you were my chiropractor growing up, it would be incredible. You're going to probably send a football team of chiropractors to school one day.
I'm hoping so, man.
But I'm super proud of not what you've accomplished, but how you've done it. And it's just really cool. It's a transferable mindset. Like you said, anybody can do this. You just got to start, right? You just got to take a step and see where it goes.
Yeah. Trust the process. You just trust the process and commit to it, and then you're making decisions based on your convictions, and you're not asking for permission from other people, because like my convictions aren't theirs, and you're leading from a space of you're living from a space of service and love and trust. And I mean, I went over a shit ton of contracts this week with everyone, and for like I'm literally presenting the contract, and then I'm also saying, also, just so you know, at the end of this whole thing, like when we're talking about like the arbitration part and like, you know, like the legalese part of the contract that like makes the contract a contract,
makes you sound like
literally
a jerk.
looking at that. And I told every single one of them, I said, also, at the end of the day, my relationship with you is what matters the most. If we're ending and it's not going well or something like that, like I'm not about hiring a lawyer and going after you and trying to like drag this shit out. Like this is just a consciousness thing for me. Like this is just like, I want a clear conscience. I want you to have a clear conscience. This is what we're agreeing on. These are like the boundaries. If you decide to break the boundaries, like I'm probably not going to chase your ass down, because it's just not worth it to me. And like, I want to just maintain a good relationship.
Yeah.
Cause that's just how I am. And so like, when I look back and I step back and I look at my team, and I'm just like, I'm surrounded by studs, warriors, like servants. And it's like our CA staff is somehow mirroring as strong as our doctor staff is. Like if anyone listening like knows our doctor staff, like they're good. Dude, I just got adjusted by Dr. Brett Richards the other day. It was one of the best adjustments I've ever had from like a just graduated person. I literally was like, what the fuck? Like he side postured me and I was like, dude, have you been practicing for 5 years?
That's awesome.
And I look at our CAs and they're like just as awesome. And they're all coming from being practice members first. And they're all like coming up for us. Like, you know, those are some of the best clients or best staff. And and it's all because we're just trying to create a big ass love bubble for the team and for humanity and for everyone that we get to serve. When that's what you focus on, you're free. It's freedom.
That's it. So I think one thing that is cool about your office and the network that you're in, right, is there's more resources probably available to someone, even if they might not be a patient, via online or social media. At least good information that can, I think, still help people. How can people find your office and good info, either social media or website?
So we do the most on, and I personally do the most on Instagram. Facebook is a little noisy for me. It's just got a lot of shit going on. And so my Instagram is just Dr. Dyllon Mawn. All of our docs are doctor first name, last name on their Instagrams. Our practices are the Source St. Pete and the Source Dunedin, which looks like Dundon, Dunedin. And St. Pete, this is confusing. It's the Source St. Pete, STPETE. You can put it all in the show notes. But yeah, people can follow our practices. They can follow me. I like to post things about my thoughts and stuff and just like really engage with people. But that's where we're trying to post value for people to shift their perspective on health and healing, shift their perspective on life and living, like, because a perspective shift is like how we evolve. If you always stay living in like the same lens, then like this is all you ever see. But the second you start like keep continuing to open that perspective shift, it's like, oh, wow. We all know nothing.
Right. And a different perspective allows you to set new intentions, right?
Yeah. What I thought I knew before was nothing. And so I'd rather just be open and keep shifting. So that's what we try to do.
I love it, man. Well, thank you again. Tell Christine I said hello. And we'll have to do another one because I think we stumbled upon some things throughout here where we could do a whole nother show or two for sure.
Perfect, man. I'm down.
All right,
bro,
man.
I love you too. It's good to see you. I'm going to be on this and I look forward to catching up with you soon.
All right, brother. See ya.